In 13 countries of the world, atheism is a capital offense. You can be put to death for non-belief. We have literally helped dozens of atheists leave their homes and find safety, thereby escaping prison, mob violence, and even death.
We were chatting beforehand, I was checking with some friends, and one of the questions came up about comedy and the fact that we couldn't think of many, if any, comedians who were religious. I'm not asking for example, I'm just saying, do we think it's a thing that most stand-ups tend to be agnostic or atheist? Or
I think so. I think that's because a lot of comedians are critical thinkers. I think a lot of them are science-based.
They're intelligent.
Well, I don't want to. Well, yeah. But then, you know, a lot of religious people are intelligent, but they've been got at an early age, and it's like, I think they're braver. Some people, there's still a thing of not saying I'm an atheist because people think that it's a bad thing to be.
I read that Ricky had an early ambition to be a scientist, and his attitude to science seems to me exactly right. Though, of course, he wouldn't claim to be a scientist. To quote him, "Science seeks the truth, and it does not discriminate. For better or worse, it finds things out. Science is humble. It knows what it knows, and it knows what it doesn't know. It bases its conclusions and beliefs on hard evidence, evidence that is constantly updated and upgraded. It doesn't get offended when new facts come along. It embraces the body of knowledge. It doesn't hold on to medieval practices because they are tradition." And the following seems to me to show an admirably scientific attitude to theology. The existence of God is not subjective. He either exists or he doesn't. It's not a matter of opinion. You can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts. Ricky is immensely famous, of course, and he's very gracious about being stopped in the street and other aspects of fame. But being famous also prompted a typically witty remark on the subject of the widespread belief that only religious people are moral. Being famous is like believing in God. Someone's watching you all the time. I've never quite known how to cope with the retort that it's only extremists who get a religion a bad name. Ricky's answer to that at least hits one nail on the head. You can easily spot any religion of peace. Its extremist members would be extremely peaceful. Literary scholars have sometimes pointed out how fine can be the line between tragedy and comedy. Some of the greatest comedians and comic characters have been close to tragedy. Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Tony Hancock, Falstaff, Basil Fawlty. Ricky Gervais is one of the world's great comedians, but unlike some comedians, he's not himself a tragic figure. He's a happy man with an endearing smile, a laughing court jester in a dark time. He uses humor to lift us all out of despond. Other comedians may do that in an escapist way, making us laugh as a way of running away from the dark reality of life. Ricky doesn't do that. On the contrary, he goes right to the heart of the darkness, tackles the evils of life and the evil people by confronting them head-on and laughing at them. As he himself said, "If you can't joke about the most horrendous things in the world, what's the point of jokes? What's the point in having humor? Humor is to get us over terrible things." Ladies and gentlemen, atheists and rationalists, I give you a great hero of our movement, our own wittily creative, infectiously laughing court jester, Ricky Gervais.
fantastic! I can take that back from you, actually, Ricky. I get.
Okay, you sit down. I think
I'll sit down. That's it. Good night.
Now, Richard, did you
If
do
you'd
that?
have been all in black, that would have looked
Yes.
like a really amazing trick.
I thought you'd do that with the power of your mind. That was amazing. So we're going to chat about things, and I'm going to start off picking up on one of the topics you mentioned there, which is, I think for many people in the public, atheists have this sort of reputation for being a little bit down in the world and a little bit pessimistic. Are you, I mean, we're living in quite a difficult time at the moment. Are you optimistic people? Are you optimistic about the future?
Well, I don't know if I'm optimistic. I don't know. I'm happy. I've always been happy. I've always tried to get the most out of life. I worked out early on that was the shortcut I wanted. I just wanted to be happy. I did that first and then decided how I was going to sort of make a living. Am I optimistic? I mean, I've got nothing to fear. I look at this a bit like a holiday. We don't exist for 13.5 billion years. Then we exist for 80, 90, 100 years, if we're lucky. And you experience everything. It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing to be alive. The chances of us being here, as us, that sperm hitting that egg, is 400 trillion to 1. It's incredible that we're here, you know. And then we die, never to exist again, you know. And some people even get offended by me saying that. They say things like, you don't know that. No, I'll probably live again. You know. Someone said on Twitter once to me, "Why don't you pray just in case there's a God?" And I said, "Why don't you put garlic over your door just in case there's a Dracula?" But I've got no problem with praying. You know, it doesn't bother me. I've never been bothered by spirituality. I don't believe in it, but a personal belief has never been a danger.
Ricky Gervais understands what science is, a method that tests ideas, accepts evidence, and changes when it must. That simple approach has driven every real advance in human history. Knowledge grows by questioning, not by guarding tradition. On God, Gervais is blunt. Either one exists or not. Belief doesn't change facts. The same goes for morality. The Bible allows slavery, demands women's submission, and commands violence. These rules were enforced for centuries. Progress came only when people rejected them. When reason and human struggle built ideas of equality and rights. Gervais also challenges the claim that atheism is bleak. He calls life a rare accident, a chance against staggering odds, and finds joy in that truth. No promise of eternity is needed. What matters is the brief span we have and how we use it. And he does this with humor. He mocks cruelty, laughs at dogma, and turns comedy into defiance. That laughter is not denial. It is strength. So the issue is simple. Face reality as it is, or keep hiding behind stories that were written to keep us in line.
I suppose that's the nearest approach to a crocodile, and that is real.
That is real.
But actually,
because it's an early monotremes that it produces eggs and milk, it could make its own custard. But it... It doesn't, but it definitely could.
Well, it could. I use
Nice
the instant stuff, so it could use that as well. If you get a whisk, it would be fine.
Yes.
It is amazing. I mean, some Australian mammals. It's because, is it true that it floated away and there weren't predators as such? So,
there were predators actually,
but they didn't.
They've mostly gone extinct. There was a giant predatory carnivorous kangaroo, for example, which must have been quite terrifying.
Oh my!
Bounding after you with its jaws agape.
Yeah. Oh, we should bring them back.
I think so. Yes.
Can we now? You started it, but turned into an idiot on Twitter.
No.
Can we bring back the mammoth? You know, can we?
Yeah.
We could.
I think we can, can't you?
But I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome. No. Would that be the greatest thing ever?
It'd be amazing.
Can we bring back the mammoth?
There is a serious possibility. The genome of the mammoth is being pretty much worked out, and the technology to actually bring it back isn't there yet. But we've got the genome, and so it doesn't seem totally impossible that you could
Now, what does that mean? Do you mean you've synthesized something, or you've put together bits of DNA, or the DNA exists and you found it in the elephant and modified it? What does it mean? Do you mean you've got the thing that would make a mammoth if it was?
Well, because frozen mammoths died sufficiently recently, and they're frozen in the Arctic, so that there's plenty of tissue there. You can get plenty of DNA. There's a lovely Hilaire Belloc poem about the frozen mammoth, which ends up, I can't remember how it goes, but if the skin be, it will make an excellent soup, but the snag is, if the skin be but punctured before it is boiled, your confection is wholly and utterly spoiled. And hence, on account of the size of the beast, the dainty is nearly unknown. But anyway, there it is. It's
If you don't know the answer, Richard, just say so.
Right, you asked for this. Okay.
So how would we bring it back? What is the process? What would we do?
The process is that you use the soft tissues of this frozen mammoth to sequence the DNA, and that's pretty much been done with a little bit of filling in with elephant DNA as well. Now, what we don't yet have the ability to do is to implant that DNA into an elephant egg, and then put the elephant egg with mammoth DNA into a female elephant, and then grow the embryo.
So it would be a hybrid at most.
No.
How could you see? So you'd clone the mammoth and just use that as a surrogate.
You remember Dolly the sheep?
Yeah.
Well, it would be that kind of thing. So Dolly it was a sheep egg, and into that sheep egg was put the DNA of another sheep.
Right.
And then it was cloned.
If a mammoth baby come out, wouldn't that surprise the elephant?
No doubt. Yes, no doubt.
Like,
a lot of people have hairy babies.
tusks and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, elephants have got tusks.
Oh, that's true, actually.
It's just hairier than the.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you could clone a mammoth, would you do it? Not clone. I mean, would you?
I would, but there are many who wouldn't. There are many who think it would be unethical somehow to do this. They think it would be cruel.
Why would it be cruel? Because it wouldn't ever be in its natural habitat. It
Well,
wouldn't understand modern technology.
If it was just on its own, I mean, if you made lots of them, and there's some people think that we should actually clone lots of them and let them loose on the Siberian tundra to bring back the ecology that's disappeared.
I'd bring back Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'd let it loose in parts of England, to be honest.
But Ricky, would you do it if you were part of the committee deciding whether to bring back a mammoth? How would you vote?
I don't know. Why would I be doing it just because I could? Because that's something to be said. He what?
Chinese scientist who cloned the twins with something like to protect them against HIV. How did that work out?
I don't know.
I didn't hear.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
I'm not certain of the answer. I was a lot more comfortable when we were talking about crocodiles, though. I'll give you that. So, okay. So we'll move on a bit. Away from mammoths and crocodiles. So atheism.
Yeah.
I can remember. I don't know whether this has any resonance for you at all. But I can remember listening to you on the radio, and I can't place this. I know it's a long time ago, and I would think it's after the initial success of The Office, I think. And I think it's Steve Wright, but I might be wrong. And he said something like, you must wake up in the morning and say, thank God for my amazing things that are happening. And you said, why would I say thank God? I'm an atheist.
Right.
And it was the first time I'd heard the word atheist on kind of public radio.
Well, there shouldn't even be the word, should there? If people didn't invent gods, I wouldn't have to deny them. And it's just... but it's like... I was told when I sort of started breaking America to not mention I was an atheist.
Really?
Oh, 'cause first thing I did. On every first thing I did. Why? What am I going to lose? Imagine not doing something because people hate you because of what you are. That's you know, that's my only thing I've got. I'm a white, rich, middle-class man, but at least I'm hated for being an atheist. Do you know what I mean?
And, have you
I'm oppressed. I'm oppressed in 13 countries I'd never go to anyway.
Have you seen a change in your, of the last, I don't know, that's 20 years or so, about how atheism is perceived?
Well, I mean, you sort of do it. There's part of me that does it because I think I should, that there is someone being persecuted now that might, you know, I can't change the world, but what I mean, maybe someone in a Western world that thinks they shouldn't come out because it's a bad thing, because it's still a bad thing in Western society. In America, they took a vote, America, right? Probably that big bit in the middle of America, but we were voted least trustworthy group, joint bottom with rapists. So there's still a thing about, I better not say I'm an atheist, it'll annoy my mum or dad or granddad or school. There's still that. So you do that. Some of it I do it as an intellectual pursuit, because someone asks me a question, I'd rather give the right answer than the wrong answer. I'd rather tell the truth than lie, because it's easier, you know. I think the big thing, people think I run into churches and go, it's all fucking bollocks. I don't care, you know. But if I'm asked if I believe in God, I'll say no. I mean, you know, the tricky one is I did a film called The Invention of Lying, where I did a scene where thank you, 7 people saw that film, where my mother in that is dying, and it's because I'm the only person in the society who can lie. She says, I don't want to go to nothingness. And I go, there's not nothingness. It's a beautiful place you go and you're young again. And I invent heaven, right? And that comes from the fact that when my mum was dying, I did face a dilemma. If she'd have said, do you think there's a God? That's a personal thing, and that's you know. I just try and be honest, really. And the other is, if someone else's kid, 5-year-old, asks me, do I believe in God? I sort of think, what should I say here? And I say, well, I don't, but a lot of people do. What do you think? You know, I try and, there's still a level of diplomacy. It's not always my place. You know what I mean? I don't, you know, my house, my rules. If someone asks me something on Twitter, I tell them the truth, because, you know.
And Richard, in the last sort of 20, 30 years, have you seen a change in how atheism is perceived?
I'm not a sociologist. I haven't done the research. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not sure. It would only be a subjective impression. The statistics suggest that we're growing in numbers. Obviously in Western Europe, but also even in America, I think the number of people who claim no religion in the United States is now more than 20%, which is large compared to any particular religious denomination. So I think that the statistics show that the trend is in the right direction. But as Ricky says, other polls show that we're down there with rapists in terms of public...
I think they have to lump us in with, you know, agnostics, which
Richard Dawkins recalls Ricky Gervais on the radio. He was asked why he doesn't thank God for his success. Gervais replied simply, he doesn't believe. The word atheist exists because humans invented gods. Denying gods has always carried risk. Socrates was executed for impiety. Giordano Bruno burned for heresy. Apostates in Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Pakistan face imprisonment or death. Throughout history, disbelief has been treated as a threat to social and political order. Religious authority demanded obedience. Questioning it could cost life, liberty, or reputation. Atheists face suspicion even in modern societies. Early 2000s U.S. polls ranked atheists as the least trusted group, tied with rapists. Studies in Canada show non-religious candidates encounter barriers in elections. Secular populations rise steadily in Europe. In the United States, over 20% identify as knowns. Sweden and the Netherlands, largely non-religious, lead global indices for education, equality, and well-being. Evidence, reason, and inquiry shape functional societies. Societies that reward critical thinking are more resilient, more equal, and capable of sustaining human rights. Religion did not build these societies. Human effort, courage, and skepticism did. Gervais stresses honesty as a moral principle. In his film, The Invention of Lying, he explores a society without falsehoods, showing that ethical life depends on truth. When faced with the fear of death, human imagination invents comforting stories. Gervais illustrates that myths are convenient, not necessary. He highlights the odds of any individual existing. 400 trillion to 1. Life is rare, brief, and astonishing. That reality does not require supernatural reassurance. It demands integrity, curiosity, and courage. Living fully means confronting reality without illusions, accepting death, and acting ethically because we understand consequences, not because a deity commands it. Dawkins notes that disbelief continues to grow. Skepticism spreads through dialogue, evidence, and observation. Gervais has faced criticism, hostility, and mistrust for stating his disbelief, including online attacks and social disapproval. Many still hide their lack of belief out of fear of ostracism. That fear is a legacy of centuries of religious authority. Despite that, more people now speak openly, examine claims, and reject inherited dogma. They engage in moral reasoning independently of supernatural authority. Gervais and Dawkins force a question society rarely asks. If stating disbelief provokes fear, what does that reveal about the authority religion claims? If morality, meaning, and wonder exist without gods, why defend myths that historically constrained thought, punished dissent, and enforced obedience? Human honesty, inquiry, and courage have always expanded freedom. They remain the clearest guide forward. The challenge is personal and collective. It is not enough to live silently. Truth must be acknowledged. Human progress has always demanded courage, and that courage begins by questioning myths, facing the extraordinary odds of existence, and living with integrity. Belief cannot claim moral authority where honesty and reason prove stronger, richer, and more durable.
But then, a lot of religious people are intelligent, but they've been got at an early age, and it's like, I think they're braver. Some people, there's still a thing of not saying I'm an atheist because people think that it's a bad thing to be. Parents still christen their kids instead of school because they think it's a respectable thing to do. That's sad, but I get it. There's a couple though. They don't put it in their act, I don't think. Tim Vine is very devout Christian.
Yes, true. Yes. But in general, they tend to be, I think, more skeptical or...
I think that's because they look at things from all angles and they come up with funny ideas. And I look at the idea, and I think that's what's wrong, and that's what dogma does, is that people try and give ideas human rights, so you leave them alone. And you don't have to. You can ridicule ideas without hurting anyone. And some people say...
That deserves a round of applause.
Oh, thank you. And they found it shuts some people up. If they say that's hurt, you can be accused of racism or anything if you criticize an idea. And it's people jumping in the way of a bullet and saying, "Why are you shooting at me?" And it comes back to Richard's point that I'm offended. That's not an argument. It's not an argument. It's like me being offended if someone takes the mickey out of maths. It's like, go on, yeah, fine, yeah. Do you know what I mean? You can laugh at maths. It doesn't affect maths. It doesn't affect maths.
And I'd like asking this of all performers. When you've done a lot of live work, when you go on stage or before you go on stage, do you have any superstitious rituals that you carry out?
No.
Really?
No, I'm not superstitious, am I? Is this a trick?
No.
So if I said yes, I'd go down a vault.
Then look at this footage and deny it. No, really.
No, I have. I probably have loads of sort of neuroses and OCDs and things like that, but nothing based on superstition. It's worrying that are the audience in? What's the air conditioning like? Is it like someone gonna? Is there a squeaky door? No ice in the drink. Someone's putting off. There's someone. Okay. I have all those things, but I have no superstitions. No. Did you mean superstitions, or do you mean?
Yeah, I mean some performers touch wood or wear certain socks or nothing.
Well, I wear the same clothes because I can't be bothered to think about what else to wear. But no, I don't do touch wood.
Okay.
No, I don't touch wood. No.
I'd ask.
No, I don't. No. I burn some incense, say a couple of prayers. That's it, really.
And in terms of changing minds, in terms of getting people to be more skeptical or rational or scientific, both of you enormously influential, but with two different ways. Obviously, you're using comedy a lot of the time, and you're depending more on factual arguments. How does that play out? Is that playing to the same audiences? Do you think it's equally persuasive?
Well, I think Rich is more driven in his thing than I am. But what do you think about changing minds? What do you think?
I'm known to be not very good at it. I tend to just, as you were saying earlier, Ricky, I tend to just tell the truth. And that isn't always the right way to go about it. Marketing wouldn't approve, I suspect, of just simply going out and telling the truth. I had a rather nice encounter with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who said something like, you just put it out there. You don't, there's no act of persuasion, there's no act of seduction going on. You just simply say, here are the facts, take it or leave it. And I had to say, I said, I gratefully accept the rebuke, but I then went on to say, I'm not the worst of that. And I quoted Alan Anderson, who was then the editor of New Scientist, who said, I asked him what your policy is at New Scientist, and he said, our policy at New Scientist is science is interesting, and if you don't agree, you can fuck off.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly, yeah. Yeah, in the greater scheme of things, there are probably worse things than people believing in all the different gods. It doesn't affect me because I'm free and liberated and safe but yeah, you can still be annoyed. It's ignorance that annoys me more than anything. Whatever it is, it's not. I don't want to keep going after religion because that's only one form of this belligerent, willful, and it's not even that. It's you can't sort of help what you believe in. Most people aren't going around thinking this will annoy people or I'm trying to oppress people's rights. They just think I believe in God because that's how my brain worked when I was little, and now I think yeah, there's probably a God. And most religious people aren't crazy. It's something else. Again, it's something, we worry about the people who believe the bad bits in their holy book as well as the good bits. Most nice people who believe in God, they can tell the difference. They know the nice bits, they cherry pick and they know the nice bits from the bad bits. They don't do the bad bits. And my point is, if you know the bad bits from the good bits, you don't need the holy book. You're already a moral person.
And with afterlife, which I think is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Clearly, obviously you talk about atheism in there, but it's fundamentally about kindness and living a good life, I think.
I think it is. I think the question is, when you lose the best thing about life, is it still worth living? That's what the question starts with. It started with a high concept, really. Imagine you lost everything. You wouldn't care about anything. You could do what you wanted. So that was the comedic, dramatic.
Where did that thought come from?
I don't know. I think it might have been sort of 2 years of this thing that you got to watch what you say. Like it wasn't to say the right thing, it was to say the thing that was least offensive to most people, which is nonsense. We'd still be in the Middle Ages. We'd still be putting leeches down our pants. You know, every scientist committed heresy at some point. Every great invention, every move forward in progress was going against some sort of crazy dogma at some point. And it wasn't that there was more crazy, mad, nasty people around. It was that they weren't ashamed of it anymore in the last few years. You know, in my day, racists were ashamed, right? And now they're not. So, and the backlash was people saying, "Oh, you can't say anything," and I just thought, well, imagine if you could. You just could. You didn't care about the consequences. You didn't care about offending anyone, because that we do. We even myself and Richard, who want to tell the truth, we do things we don't want to do all the time because we're worried about it. If we're mugged, we hand over the cash because we don't want to get hurt, right? But imagine if you didn't care about living or dying. That happens in afterlife. You think, bring it on. I'm not scared anymore. So that was the idea. If you weren't scared about consequences, if you weren't scared about politeness, if you had nothing to lose, and that was the seed of the idea, really.
But then, of course, it becomes about kindness. It becomes about overcoming
it becomes about
that
people
feeling.
trying to save you, the comfort of strangers and the people who care, and that's the thing about grieving and depression. The thing that came out of Afterlife that shocked me, I've never had a reaction like it. Even The Office, I've never had a reaction like it, because it was an emotional reaction. And I found out that people come up to me all the time and they say, "Oh, I lost my mother, I lost my husband." And you think, oh yeah, of course, everyone's grieving. Everyone's grieving this year about something. And the older they get, the more that happens. And that was never an intention, but I think people hadn't seen, certainly a comedy, but they hadn't seen something that dealt with grief. That man who he wanted to die, and then I had to make it funny. So, but yeah.
But also this character is dealing with grief not from a religious point of view at all.
Well, I wanted that. I wanted a bit of a play on words with afterlife, like he thought his life was over.
Ricky Gervais points out that intelligence doesn't automatically lead to belief. Many religious people are taught faith from childhood. Baptism, prayers, and religious instruction are presented as normal, even essential. Declaring disbelief can provoke tension, disapproval, or social isolation. Gervais notes that identifying as atheist requires courage because it challenges long-standing expectations and traditions. He emphasizes skepticism as a way to examine the world. Humor and critical thinking allow people to question ideas without harming others. Dogma treats beliefs as untouchable, discouraging investigation. Criticism is not personal attack. It's a way to test ideas. Richard Dawkins echoes this. Facts exist independently of feelings or offense. Understanding requires evidence, not comfort. Gervais also rejects superstition. Performers may have routines, anxieties, or habits, but he avoids rituals or charms. Outcomes depend on preparation, skill, and observation, not invisible forces. Belief in supernatural influence is unnecessary for navigating life. Both speakers address society's perception of atheism. Dawkins cites surveys that rank atheists as untrustworthy. Gervais notes that many conceal disbelief to avoid criticism. Historically, religious authorities equated morality with faith, yet secular reasoning shows ethics do not require belief in a deity. Humans make moral choices, show compassion, and respond to grief without scripture. Gervais' work in Afterlife and The Office reflects this. Characters confront grief, loss, and mortality without invoking God. Humor and observation allow audiences to engage honestly with life's difficulties. Moral action emerges from empathy, reflection, and human connection. Dogma often restricts thought and discourages questioning. Life gains meaning through conscious action, ethical reflection, and awareness of consequences. honesty, curiosity, and courage guide individuals in facing reality, making moral decisions, and navigating loss. Belief is not a prerequisite for morality or for living a full life. How do you see it? Do you think religion shapes morality, or can we develop ethics and compassion on our own? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If this got you ideas, be sure to like, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going.